The Industrial Revolution has brought us great things as a nation, and some argue we are only truly feeling its effects today, that we just haven't stopped creating and innovating, and it's finally starting to catch up. Others say that we've already experienced a second technological revolution in the aftermath of the Civil War, when the American economy grew considerably between 1870 and 1914. But whether or not you think it's behind us or we're in the middle of it now, we must give credit where credit is due. The Industrial Revolution gave us telecommunication and phones, typewriters and laptops, put machines in factories. And with all this amazing technology and innovation, we were able to put people on the moon and planes in the sky, and now we have the world at our fingertips. But with all this innovation, one thing never seemed to upgrade: our education systems. Hi, my name is Shira, and I'll be taking you through some of our nation's history of government involvement in education and the hidden structures that control our schools. Plainly, our education system has not kept up with the times. To this day, it runs on an industrial factory model, meaning kids are moved in blocks of the same age group at the same rate, and ideally the same way and at the same place. It seems a bit robotic and almost methodical.
You hesitated.
I had to. He's my son.
Are you sure?
This is your big idea? Robot kids that look like my children.
This is because it's set up just like industrial factories. This kind of sorting was tolerable in the 50s, since the economy was based on industrialization. Many students left the system before, during, or just after high school with good chances of finding well-paying work in skilled trade or manufacturing. Again, this education system fit the industrialized economy of that time. It no longer serves the needs of today. Careers now require more education than ever before, and jobs that once supported entire families have largely vanished. And students who are trying to enter the workforce with a high school diploma or less are finding themselves lost. And these issues are affecting race and class at a much higher rate, largely due to understaffing and underfunding in urban school systems. Massachusetts was the first state to offer free public education to its citizens, and within 60 years, every other state followed. 150 years ago, you could walk into any classroom in the US and see identical layouts. One teacher for every 28 students of similar age. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well, this is referred to as the factory model classroom. Remember when I mentioned the technological revolution? Well, in 1983, Microsoft Word released the first multi-tool processing system, and within a year, it was rewritten to run on personalized computers. And that same year, Apple came out with its third model of personalized computers with several built-in features that the world has never seen before.
Macintosh, the computer for the rest of us. The development of Macintosh by Apple has been paralleled by the work of leading software developers.
It's a great machine. It's a step forward in terms of the way it uses graphics and the speed. And this is a machine that a lot of people are going to be able to afford. That's a very, very useful machine. I was enthused. Microsoft doesn't work with new hardware very often, but we put a team of people on it from the beginning, and we're planning that over half of our retail sales next year will come from Macintosh software.
Both the US government and the citizens were convinced that this would revolutionize the way of learning. But in all these years, it just didn't meet the mark. It wasn't that schools weren't trying to adapt. They did, but there was little to no research that showed that there was any impact on education when we were bringing these technologies into the classrooms. So how is it that technology infiltrated the rest of society with such innovation, but we see no change in the way that we learn? According to The Atlantic, the most simple answer is technology cannot officially work in unison with our current school structures, leaving them virtually unchanged since the mid-19th century. The idea behind the school systems that we know and love today is unison. This model was imported from Prussia by Horace Mann, known as the father of common school. He grew up in the early 19th century, surrounded by religious divisions of Protestants and Catholics in the public domain. Mon believed that the private religious schools only reinforced the divide and didn't allow for national identity. The thinking was, having a large group of kids built in common foundation would create a more unified society and blur our differences. Mon's system suited the industrial age. Factory lines were important and it supported the economy. But factories were not designed for personalization, and because of that, neither were schools.
Actually, I designed him. I built him! His name is X52495. A second.
So you might be asking yourself, what now? Well, technology and our current methods of teaching don't seem to blend, which means that there's a disconnect in how we are applying these technologies and how they should be used. Our image of K-12 has always been associated with class bells, number 2 pencils, rigid schedules, and credit requirements. Innovation allows us to break free of these norms of how instruction is curated and delivered. We use technology as tools for our schools, but rather than designing tools to support our current ways, we should be redefining these technologies as areas of studies where students can really take advantage of what they can do for them.
Strange.
It is simple to say that 3 desktops in the back of the room of 30 school children just won't do it anymore. We must hold our government responsible for integrating educational advancement in our country. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about changing our school systems, but not changing them just isn't an option.
I think the next step is definitely a letter writing campaign. We want to get the message out, especially directly to the government, that we are not okay with this happening, that students say no. From there, we'll see. I think we're a great group.
Mon once said, "Education, beyond all other devices of human origin, is the great equalizer of conditions of men, the balance wheel of social machinery." Thank you for taking the time to listen today. And remember, a brighter future is ahead of us.